firstly, with the teaser poster, obviously the main aim of it is to like entice the audience, like create anticipation within them, so they can look for more information or look forward to the trailer or the main posters. So obviously in the teaser poster you can't include too much information, but you have to include enough for it to be like effective and for it to target your demographic effectively as well. So you've got the idea that obviously in the teaser poster the main characters are introduced and you've got the priest in the middle, but then again since you're not given too much information, you're kind of wondering like what's going on. And obviously the title Penance has religious connotations with it, so obviously straight away the audience know there's like some religious element towards it. And the mise en scène of the characters, like they're all dressed like smart, they look like possibly detectives. That also creates the image within the audience that this might be like detective crime or with some elements of religion within it.
And with my one, it's a character-based poster, so that's when you start to introduce the characters. And I've done only one of Detective Carter, who's one of the main characters, and I've introduced her in a way of having her name on top of the poster, plus some little elements of the genre into the poster, like the dystopian future with religious elements of like the coding and stuff like that layered on the poster, and religious iconography with the cross in her eye. It kind of gives like, oh, okay, so this is just genre and this is the character, and yeah, it will basically, it's just introducing the package overall.
Yeah. I did the main poster targeted at the British audience, and in my poster, there's a lot of iconography representing all parts of our trailer and all parts of our products. So for the religious iconography, in the background we can clearly see a church that the two main detectives, Detective Carter and Detective Lewis, are standing in front of. And as well, we've got the title of the poster, which is Penance, which, as Cedric said, has religious connotations. And then in terms of the detective side of it, the police crime thriller, the mise en scène, the costume of, again, Detective Carter and Detective Lewis shows them in... Detective Lewis is wearing a black shirt, which is smart attire. Detective Carter is wearing a white shirt with a black tie, again showing office wear, implying that they're in that kind of field of work. But at the same time, the fact that they are in front of the church, in the middle of this poster, implies that they are also in the middle of the plot. They're a central part of what will later become our trailer. And then in terms of the stalker slasher elements, it's largely the colours I've used in the trailer. So for example, the title Penance is in quite a deep red, as is much of the text, which represents kind of the gory, more bloody parts that we'll later see again in the trailer. But then at the same time, the dystopian part, the sky in the background around the church, I've edited it so it's quite dark, which shows that maybe the society that they are in isn't quite as fine, as well put together, as bright as, for example, the London we know today, but implies that the actual area around them, where they are, is quite a dark place, as is shown in the lighting of the overall poster as well.
My film poster has a target demographic of mainly Americans. It's quite similar to the British demographic, but just in a different region. For my film poster, I heavily used religious iconography, seeing as how in most states they are still quite strong Christians. For example, in the state of Indiana, they still don't allow gay rights and such due to Christianity. So by using quite a lot of religious iconography to show that it could be a sort of film that they'd watch, seeing how there's a heavy use of Christianity implied in the poster. And also with the fact that in the outline of the crucifix is the priest, and in front of the priest is a layer of flames This is meant to signify that there is sort of the dystopian future of how Christians in the future might turn over their religion and see that it could be a bad religion in the end of the day, like how others may see terrorism, Muslims, as a negative thing. For the film magazine, in relation to the genre and of the trailer, it shows how the main actor featured in the trailer is also part of the main feature of the magazine. It's meant to signify that the main feature of the magazine will be reviewing on the film Penance.
And for my film magazine, we've got the Detective Lewis is the assistant of our main character. But although she's only the assistant, she is shown as a single full body shot without any of the other characters, which implies her as quite a key role in the plot. So although within the trailer we may see her as kind of following behind Detective Carter, and there are implications that maybe she is not all that she seems within the trailer, but her positioning on the front cover and the lighting around her again is quite dark, which could either be interpreted as a representation of her. Is her character dark, or is it still just a continuation of the representation of the dystopian society? That is left up to the viewer of the magazine. And again, she is just accompanied by various titles. There's Penance across the bottom of the page, which shows her link with the film again. And then, yeah.
In my film magazine, I have The Priest as the main issue, and because I chose an independent film magazine, Little White Lies, as an inspiration, I've kind of taken that directly into mine. And so I didn't have much cell lines, so I had to use my illustration or the main image as more of the indication of what it is or what the issue would be about and this and that. So I had blood splatters around it, and I had the little religious iconography with his costume of the priest attire, and that was mainly it. It was left ambiguous for the audience or the readers of the magazine, which would help them want to read more about it.
Yeah, and for my film magazine, I also use the priest as the main focal image, and like the way he stands and he's posing in the front cover suggests that it suggests dominance, like he has some he has a very important role to play in the film, and obviously I have the film title at the bottom, and so obviously for my film I also use the priest, and the way he's standing kind of in the poster suggests that he has quite an important role to play within, as he's the main focal image, and him holding the rosary obviously implies the religious connotations again, and the fact, and I try to keep my film magazine quite simple, not to give too much away, as Chantal mentioned, to keep it ambiguous so that the reader doesn't know too much before they've actually watched the film, as not many usually go and see on release dates. They usually go maybe a few days after, and yeah. So you could say one of the unique selling points from our whole package overall is the fact that we've mixed in violence as well as religion, as you usually don't involve religion with violence. And the idea of it is quite unique, and loads of people said that don't expect such a combination of ideas.
Yeah, so overall, just the whole idea of, following up from what Cedric said, the hybridity of our genre. We have got the religious elements in it, and that is mixed with the violence, but as well the genre itself. We've got stalker slasher as one part of the genre. Then on top of that, we've also got dystopian future kind of setting, which is another part that's influenced. And then we've got police crime thriller, which we see from Detective Carter and Detective Lewis, and their actual investigating of the murders being committed.
The feedback I got from the target audience with like the posters and the magazines plus the trailers were really good. They were all consistent. They said both were great, and both magazines and posters are great, and they showed part of like what they would be, the contents of the trailer, and the trailer was really good. It was something they did not expect.
Well, I decided to look more towards the American target audience since that's what I covered for my film poster, and sending them the whole promotional package, so the posters, the magazine, and the trailer. They thought it was quite phenomenal how something that was created by the British can actually be quite gory and still have quite a lot of slasher elements for them to give them a scare. It entertains them as well, since most films originate from America. So, seeing how that a British slasher feature film trailer can also be quite similar to how it was done in America, was quite really positive feedback we got. There was the criticisms. There were not very much, seeing as how, especially with budget, we were quite limited on what resources we can use to create the slasher elements, and also the laws. So we can't have people running around with butcher knives or stuff.
I've had some criticisms about the trailer itself, and it was about some clips they thought would be better if it was clearer. Like in terms of the victim, it would look better if we saw the victims. Another one was some clips are a bit too dark, and in terms of like my film poster, some people said the little character-based slogan line should be more clearer as a slogan and not a title. So I changed it up a bit and made it more of a character base by putting the name of the character rather than a little slogan. So yeah, the feedback was really good, and they were helpful to help improve our work.
Overall, I believe there was just one criticism, and that would have probably been the sound, seeing as how we kept the volume consistent for our audience to hear the audio that's being played throughout the trailer. And it was just really the scream, since it's really high pitched and it can damage hearing.
We turned that down a bit afterwards, right? Or...
Yeah. It was turned
Plus
down.
the white noise.
Yeah, in order to compensate for the comments we made about the screen being maybe a bit too loud, we lowered the volume a little bit so it wasn't as loud and as,
But
for lack of a better word, damaging, but still loud enough to give that scare factor and surprise the audience and just be really stand out from the previous bit of quite quiet dialogue from where the victim asks, "Who are you?" and it's relative silence. So yeah.
There was also another change we did. It was the Universal Pictures logo. So to show that to our audience that it is a modern film that's coming out this year, we changed the old Universal Pictures to the modern one after they've had their 100th anniversary. So
yeah, and also we changed the logo. You know, the production logo, since like before it looked a bit too simplistic because you just use video libs. So obviously, I used After Effects, and that makes it look more professional. The way the logo moves about on the screen is also seen in one of the trailers that we researched, like for example, The Purge, and also helps to portray the genre just as well as showing who we are, the production company that we are.